Morning for folks on the West Coast. Appreciate you taking the time to attend our webinar on extending QuickBooks to streamline e-commerce and shipping. Before we get started, just wanted to go through a couple housekeeping details. Everyone on the webinar is muted. Your phone is muted. So if you do have questions, and we'll answer those questions as we go throughout the webinar, provided we have time during the presentation. You can submit them through the GoToWebinar tool. There's a question area where you can submit questions, and as those come up, we'll address them. And we do have some time at the end to address any questions that we don't get to as we go through the process. Also, the other note, Christmas Technology, your GoToWebinar viewer has at the top left a Zoom drop-down. So if for some reason your screen is showing only a partial, you can use that Zoom and adjust that to make sure you're seeing both all those slides that we're talking about, as well as the demo when we go through the demo. So today's presentation, what we're going to do is just talk a bit, introduce the company, and give a bit of background on sort of where we come from, what we're focused on. We tend to weave in a lot of customer scenarios. And we just find that useful both to illustrate some of the capabilities, but it also hopefully will show some things that potentially maybe you can leverage in your warehouse and in your business to really drive some efficiencies and get payback. We're going to provide a demo of QuickBooks sort of at the center of what we'll call omnichannel, both e-commerce coming in, orders coming in, some large retailer orders that require EDI, so we'll show you a demo of that. And then we'll finish up with any questions that you guys have that we don't get through as we step through the topics today. So today's speakers, as I mentioned, I'm Brian Hodson, VP of Sales and Marketing at Oz Development. I also have Jason Hancock, who is our team lead on our QuickBooks solutions. Jason, you want to just say a couple words?
Good afternoon and good morning for some folks on the phone. I actually head up the QuickBooks team here, and we cover everything with regards to that. I have about 10 years software sales experience, so I look forward to potentially helping you if I haven't already. And for those that are on the call that we've talked to, thank you for joining.
So Oz Development, we've been around a little over 12 years, 13 years, and we've really grown up and have a tremendous amount of experience in sort of integrating applications in the order management process and really understanding sort of how that fits into a warehouse and a shipping environment. We have a broad set of solutions around QuickBooks and being able to extend it, integrating e-commerce, automating shipping, providing extensions to QuickBooks that may help in the warehouse. We'll go through each of those. We have, in the last year, won a number of awards from trade magazines for sort of some of the expertise and customer success we've had, and we're really proud of that, proud of those awards. One of the ones we did here in Massachusetts was Pacesetters, which is one of the fastest growing private companies. And we really try to work very closely and collaboratively with our customers to build a tailored solution that's really going to drive some payback and operational improvement for our customers. So we get excited with barcodes and labels and those sort of things, which when I tell people outside of work, sometimes their eyes glaze over. But for us, it's a passion and something that we really enjoy spending time on. So specifically what OzLINK does in the QuickBooks scenario really breaks down into three categories. As customers set up different channels, sales channels, we integrate third-party e-commerce applications into QuickBooks. And we'll go through some specific details here, but basically that's synchronizing those different sales channels from a process and a data standpoint with the system of record, which in this case is QuickBooks, the sort of accounting and system. Then as those orders move through to fulfillment, there's extensions to QuickBooks that we can do that can streamline some of the warehouse processes, and we'll talk a bit about that. One customer example, they said, we print out a pack slip, to fulfill orders in QuickBooks, but it doesn't sort it by location. Is that something that you guys can do? And so those types of extensions are quite common to really streamline and basically fill some gaps that might not exist in the underlying application, in this case QuickBooks. And then the third area is around shipping. So we integrate carrier shipping systems, things like UPS World Ship, FedEx Ship Manager, to ensure that that shipping process is streamlined, and we can add a set of business rules, and we'll get into some of those extensions as well as we go through the session this afternoon. As I said, we've worked with many different QuickBooks customers. We have 400 customers, over 400 customers, and we'll step through a number of these in detailed use cases this afternoon. And as I said, some will start out on the left side, integrating e-commerce. Killer Motorsports, bottom left, we have a detailed sort of scenario to describe what they're doing. Some might start in the warehouse, streamlining their fulfillment process, and others start in shipping. It's quite common for our customers to start really in one area. I call it sort of the leaky pipe, fixing the most painful element of their sort of intergroup fulfillment and taking orders in. And then as they get payback and results from that project, that solution, they then focus on the next one. The OzLINK platform is fairly modular, so people can sort of layer on the automation really and digest it, invest in it as the business justifies.
So this here is how we can integrate with your e-commerce applications when it comes to QuickBooks. So in the box here, you'll see a few hopefully recognizable icons, platforms that we have integrated directly into QuickBooks, and we've had tremendous success with that. And we'll cover some of the edge applications as well when we talk about that. But the overall order flow that we've seen is that once an order is placed on the in the e-commerce cart, we have the ability to go out, grab that order, bring it into QuickBooks, have you go through your pick, pack, and ship process, and then upon shipping, we have the ability to update not just QuickBooks, but the e-commerce cart as well.
And as customers, we see they're expanding the number of applications they need to integrate with. So clearly a shopping cart, a Magento of Illusion is critical, and people have had those systems for a number of years. Now, where we see growth is in the areas of marketplace. So it might use something like Channel Advisor to integrate to multiple marketplaces. One of the more recent ones we've seen and had success with customers is Groupon. Groupon introduced Groupon Goods a couple of years ago, and now we have a number of customers who get batch orders of Groupon, and they need to get those fulfilled very quickly. Really, based on the vendor guide, they need to fulfill those orders by the next day. So being able to pull those orders out of Groupon, create a batch set of orders with the labels attached to them, and fulfill those orders quickly is an example of where you do that. So we see more and more customers with multiple integrations to different e-commerce applications.
And here's just an example of one of those integrations. This here is with a company called Image 3D. They sell the old-fashioned viewfinders with a different business model where you can upload photos that you'd like to have in one of those reels that go inside the viewfinder. In this particular instance, QuickBooks is used as a ledger. So it doesn't necessarily have to always be with QuickBooks, but in this particular case, they found that just putting in as a journal entry was sufficient for them because they didn't need to, they didn't have a high volume of inventory to specifically manage because they were creating things ad hoc.
Yeah, and that's a good point. How QuickBooks fits in, we see a number of different use cases. Sometimes, it's just, it doesn't capture. It's really, as Jason has highlighted, at the end of the day, they may want to order, a sales receipt for all the items that came in, that were sold by channel, let's say on eBay or what have you. And so that ends up being sort of a different use case than each order going through QuickBooks. And there's capabilities we have to provide that sort of consolidated, hey, here's all your orders that went through eBay or your e-commerce and put that as a single receipt in QuickBooks to save that time. So a lot of the sort of flexibility based on different customers' use cases are what can be accommodated.
So with this integration, it was more aligned of a batch process where new orders would come in and be processed through WorldShip with some business rules. So with some of the business rules that they applied was with the shipping carrier software of their choice, which was UPS. And in order for them to utilize some of the services that UPS has, they had to use UPS WorldShip. So with WorldShip, it's for packages that are less than 1 pound. They'd like to have that process in a particular way to get the most efficient cost for their shipping. So some of the other rules were some of the pack rules for multi-piece. How many viewfinders went into a certain size box. In addition to that, they also had some batch shipping applications. Some of them could range from a combo label, which we'll talk about in a little bit here, or using a thermal printer to help with the speed of a batch shipment to be processed. With this particular integration, with our streamlining of the ordering process for them, they saved over $10,000 per year. More importantly, they actually had a greater improvement with customer service and visibility because they had real-time updates to the order. So they reduced what we call WISMO orders, which is calls that come into your facility with customers asking where their order is. Because we were able to update those orders quicker, that reduced the amount of calls that they receive. And additionally, because of the solution their needs, what we brought to them, the final solution, was scalable. We didn't know it, they didn't know it when we first launched it, but it ended up that this solution helped with their increased volume. They had over a 40% increase in volume once this integration was in place, and they didn't need to hire any additional staff. So that was a huge savings for them as well. So with regards to the e-commerce integration extensions, some of these extensions that we have here with order routing, and as you see in front of you, are really ways to help process orders. Some of the ones that we see here today that are becoming more popular, like order screening, is due to the ever-growing risk of fraudulent activity out there on the website. So with order screening, multiple customers that we've had have told us that if the bill to and ship to addresses are different, they'd like to manually process those orders because 9 out of 10 times it's a fraudulent order. So if that is the case, what the sequence of transactions would happen, someone would place an order on their e-commerce cart. We would pull that order into their order management software, so QuickBooks. But before we did that, we'd actually massage the data and look for those things. So if the bill to and ship to information was different in this particular case, we'd pull in every other order except for those that had that parameter. Then the customer would go and manually verify the order information, whether that be calling the customer, emailing the customer, or whatever it was, to verify that if the order was accurate. The next piece would be address validation. This seems to be a very common request from our customers.
Yeah, especially when customers are setting up e-commerce, new channels. In a B2C environment, a lot of the customers maybe they order a first time, or it's not a regular wholesale order, so often those addresses may have errors or maybe been typed in wrong. So being able to catch that early in the process before it gets into the system, before it gets even packed and shipped, really is the most cost-effective way to do that. And what OzLINK does is it does as that order is being passed across from the e-commerce application into QuickBooks, it can do a scan of those addresses and then mark them right inside QuickBooks this address needs to be updated. The orders that are fine can flow through automatically, so you're not holding up any customer orders which you previously may have been manually screening, but you now have identified if you have 150 orders, let's say 6 or 8 of them need an address update or validation. You're just focusing on those 6 or 8 rather than looking at all of the 150, and that's keeps those customers a lot happier. The orders get fulfilled. The ones you're updating and correcting is a minimal amount of effort.
Right. And the main point here too is that you also save on your accessorial fees with the shipping carrier software or shipping carrier provider. A few other pieces here. If we were looking at inventory sync for those folks that might be using like a Magento or Volusion, we have the ability to match the inventory level that's inside QuickBooks with that that's on your website. Some of the order processings that we have here. Right?
Yeah, the inventory sync is very important if you do have multiple channels. You want to make sure that, if you have a sales team that's entering orders into QuickBooks and consuming inventory, that gets updated on your shopping cart, or if you have an EDI channel, just so to make sure that you're not selling that same item within that day 2 or 3 times, ending up having to disappoint a customer. So that can be in that sort of omni-channel, multiple channel, sales channel environment. That becomes really critical. There was one customer we actually worked with, pretty interesting use case. They actually didn't hold there was a certain set of items they sold where they didn't hold any inventory, and they had a supplier drop shipping on their behalf. So in that case, what we did is on the shopping cart, we did sort of a, manage an inventory number, sort of a ghost inventory. So it showed inventory, and when they'd get that order would be automatically routed to the supplier for fulfillment. So to be able to do that, so they could carry a broader set of items, have the inventory, get that revenue in that business without the cost of managing those inventory items.
And some of the other capabilities that we have are with order routing. That really would be if you had maybe several warehouses throughout the country, or if you worked with a 3PL. We do have the ability to build business rules to route the orders on those business rules so that you're more efficient. You're not going through your data source and scrubbing it and making sure the orders go to a certain place. If you have the logic and can verbalize it, then chances are we can build business rules to help you with that as well.
And then Killer Motorsports is an example I mentioned earlier. They're a customer of ours. And in this case, they set up a Magento storefront to capture those orders. They sell, motorcycle aftermarket type products. And theirs is a drop ship model. So they have those orders. They come into QuickBooks automatically integrated with OzLINK, and then that triggers automatically a purchase order to their suppliers. The supplier drop ships that back to their end customer, and they get visibility from a tracking tracing standpoint to those orders. So this is a sort of a more extreme example of not having to carry inventory for some of those items. If you want to carry broader, the ones, the high volume, the ones that are really driving the key business, typically customers will maintain that inventory. But there may be some other accessories, additional items that are good to carry in the catalog. You may not want to carry the inventory. So this sort of automation process allows that drop ship sort of visibility and control with really minimal effort once that's set up. And they basically ended up saving about $42,000 a year just in sort of the clerical effort of labor of having to sort of track and update the supplier with those orders and do that all manually. And then also improve their accuracy in terms of the accuracy of those orders, which might get introduced through that clerical manual work. So now as we move into the shipping area, so OzLINK provides what we call advanced shipping, and that really comes down to sort of 3 categories of capabilities. One is automating business rules, so being able to look and say, let's look back again at that customer that has multiple sales channels. Maybe they're selling through Amazon, they have a shopping cart, and then they have a wholesale channel that they're managing with a sales team. As those orders are going out, they may have rules that say, for wholesale orders, we're going to take the shipping cost and apply our negotiated rate, apply 10%, and put that on the invoice. Our e-commerce, and at the same time, they'll also send out an email to that customer saying their order's coming with the tracking number. Your e-commerce orders, that payment's done up front with a credit card, so there's no charge that's written back. Creates a sales receipt, and again, maybe an email goes out to confirm that shipment with the tracking number to the customer. And then third channel, let's say, is Amazon. Being able to, look, Amazon doesn't want sending emails, so that's simply, hey, getting that order fulfilled, no charge back, no emails generated. So there's an example of some business rules. And the business rules really can be any attribute on that shipment. It might be high dollar items, need insurance. It might be based on the destination, you want a proof of delivery. Based on the items, maybe the commodity, maybe there's some packaging and requirements, or maybe the type of service that needs to get expedited. So those are the types of things that we can streamline. And a simple way to think about it, if your person who's doing the shipping has stickies or they have to remember and make decisions, that's an opportunity for improvement in being able to automate those business rules. Not only to make them more efficient, but also to cut down on errors. And then during a peak period or a busy day, it's much easier to bring in some temporary staff to be able to address that and keep those packages flowing. The second area is the set of carrier support. We leverage the carrier software, UPS WorldShip and FedEx Ship Manager, Purelator. So we have a broad set of carriers. And then within the carrier software tends to support a broader set of services than their API. So things like SurePost, Mail Innovations are services that we can leverage for our customers. Our customers can leverage those for the use cases and really create the right shipping and right cost structure for their business. And then finally, different documents for sales channels. And we'll talk a bit more about that in terms of some branded pack slips, and we've mentioned the rules as well.
So going and starting to talk about integrations and some of our capability with integrations. QuickBooks today doesn't have a native functionality so that it can batch ship. You can batch print pick tickets, but it doesn't have the ability to batch ship. So we've created an application so that you can batch ship out of QuickBooks, and it's very simple. What you would experience is you would export a report that would just have the order numbers that you would want to have processed in this batch. You'd bring OzLINK or point OzLINK to that particular report, and then OzLINK will automatically start going through that report using the web connector to get the order information so that we can produce either a combo label as you see here or leverage a thermal printer and then go through, print off the whatever documents there are, and then also update QuickBooks with the shipment information. So we can turn a several-hour process down to just a few minutes.
Yeah, and so we have a customer that does this with the batch, and they have they do a lot of gift baskets. So they also, in addition to the label, they have a personalized note which goes with that order, and they can do this batch, peel that, pull the note off, put it in the package, peel the label off, and dramatically cut down on their missed shipments, matching up the label with the order or the greeting note. Other use cases are in apparel. We see it quite common where they also may apply a default return label with that outbound print, and you simply fold the pack slip, peel the outbound label off, but the return label goes in the shipment out to streamline that process.
So to follow up with that, you'll be printing off a pick ticket or pack slip, your label. Then as a company, you need ways to really showcase your brand, especially with the omni-channel type of marketing approach that is happening, or has started to happen more. And a branded email is a great way to start that. In this particular branded email, it can be branded to your specifications, your colors, your logos, your messaging. It can feature a product, it can feature some text, it can feature a QR code, whatever type of promotion that you'd like to run can be there. We can keep it simple, or we can make it even more sophisticated. So if you have logic that you know if somebody buys product A, and in a few months' time they'll come back and buy product B, we can leverage that technology and or logic to recommend product B at a discounted rate with this particular notification, so that any follow-up that you have from the customer or any type of front-facing information that you have with your customer, you know that you're going to try to get more sales. This is in addition to having the tracking number either go back to the shipping carrier website to track the order, or it can be directed right back to the sign-on for your shopping cart. It can be designed however you'd like.
Another customer of ours, Julian Bakery, so they have, they do a lot of whole grain breads and natural breads that they sell out of their store in Southern California. And they opened up an e-commerce site, and all of a sudden they had a huge influx of orders and shipping things really all over the U.S. And given the, the fact they want obviously the bread to get there, not stale, they really looked at different options on how to make sure that all of those orders get to the customers within 2 days. So they looked at OzLINK to be able to make some of those rules on picking up the right carrier and service. In this case, they ended up leveraging a local carrier on track for some of the deliveries within California. They also use a lot of USPS for some of the broader shipments. And providing that optimization allowed them to save almost $60,000 a year. And again, not have someone thinking about that process on each order. Where's this order going? How big is the order from a weight and dimension standpoint? Just really dramatically streamlining that process. And that growth channel, that e-commerce set of orders, really became a huge business opportunity, and making sure that they were making the right money profitable with that shipping optimization and the right cost for that order was really fundamental to their success. And then one of the more recent extensions we've done, which it really is, I think, quite interesting, and we've come across it in a number of sort of perishable type shippers, is shipping based on the weather, the temperature at the destination customer. So what Oz does in this case, OzLINK, is at ship time, go look up what's the temperature, and then that can be applied in a number of ways to say, hey, do you need, for example, we have a customer that does meats, and they ship earlier in the week. If they do things on later in the week, they want to optimize based on temperature, that something might get expedited and go in a 2 day, so they get there before the weekend. It's not sitting in a truck all weekend and maybe get spoiled. It also provides input to, hey, should I put more packaging, dry ice in here to keep this fresh for the delivery? We have another customer that does a number of plants, and they look at the temperature, and then we also map it against the USDA hardiness zone chart to say, is this, that given the temperature, should it even ship at all? So that's another example. So there's really, think about any, we have, pet companies, anything that has a perishable good that's being shipped, where the temperature might impact, is it going to go next day, can it go ground, can it impact packaging, is an opportunity to really streamline and automate that process. Again, there's another company of ours that does insects. They ship a lot of insects to pet stores and consumers who have reptiles and those sort of animals to feed. And interestingly, those animals don't eat dead bugs. They have to be alive. So making sure that the percentage of their shipments arrive alive is really critical from a business customer satisfaction standpoint. And by implementing this, they dramatically increase that live delivery rate and had tremendous savings in customer satisfaction as a result.
So as we talk about customer satisfaction, we've covered the warehouse for the orders that you would get from like a B2C type of arrangement. We're going to start getting into more B2B type of arrangement where customers might have relationships with some larger retailers like Nordstrom, Walmart, Target, and folks like that. If you don't have it, basically, and if you're looking to have it, there's going to be a tremendous change in the way that your business operates. These retailers have certain supplier manuals that you have to follow. Nordstrom is probably one of the most complicated and biggest. They have a lot of rules that you have to follow. Their supplier manual is about 200 pages long. Within that particular supplier manual, it'll tell you that you can only use brown tape, you can't use clear tape. It'll also tell you that you can't mix pack product. Along with not just that type of operation, it's also how you get and capture the orders from them. Traditionally, if you are working with a particular retail trading partner, you're going to get that in electronic communication with EDI. So you're going to receive a purchase order, 850, and you're going to basically either use that document as the packing slip, or you're going to enter that into, let's say, QuickBooks. When you go through that particular process, you're hand keying in, copying, pasting in that order information into your own order management program, and then you're going about your pick and pack process following the supplier guidelines. And when you're doing that, it can be very burdensome. But ideally, if you go through your pick and pack process, you're going to be putting things into a box, whether that be a mixed pack or a regular box itself. And then you're going to go through that process, make sure you're getting all that information and documenting it within either a piece of paper or entering that into your order management platform. When you get to the end and when you get ready to ship out the particular product, you're then going to be charged with getting the information back to that retail trading partner. And that's really where we start talking about a UCC 128 compliant label and ASNs. An ASN represents an advanced ship notice. So when you do, ship out the particular product, you're also going to be charged with creating a UCC 128 label, which is a barcoded label for the retail trading partner to scan upon delivery, so that they know what's inside that particular box or pallet, for that matter. From there, you're also going to need to go back into maybe a web form or another platform that's being hosted by that retail trading partner. It would be the same place that you receive the order from. And then you got to fill out the information, the associated information from the order, that be the tracking number, the ship method, the carrier. You're going to have to send that back into that particular web form for that particular retail trading partner. So overall, what we're seeing with customers that are going down this process is that it's taking them anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes to process an order, and if not more. We've strategically partnered with SBS Commerce. SBS Commerce not only has the platform for some of the major retail trading partners, but they also have the ability to go out and work with their direct competitors like Commerce Hub, True Commerce, and so on, to get orders from multiple retail trading partners. So in essence, SBS Commerce, it can be your one-stop shop. Now, if you have that, they have what's called a QuickBooks Connector. And with the QuickBooks Connector, as orders are coming in, instead of you going out to a web form to get the order, it would automatically flow into your QuickBooks. And from there, we have a module that can help you with a pack verification, or we can have auto pack turned on for you. to help, depending on what type of business you have, depending on what type of products you sell. We can have some business rules for that. Then at the end of it, when we go to ship out the product, you're going to automatically have the shipping label, but we're going to be able to code the UCC 128 label for you, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. In addition to that, not only are we writing back all the information into your order management software, but we're automatically sending the ASN back to that retail trading partner, closing the loop of the entire order process. Our customers experience a tremendous change when they are working with us. They go from that 15, 20 minute, 30-minute order process down to about 5 minutes.
And the other piece is, the information that's needed in that ASN, tracking number, what goes in the box, that happens in the warehouse. So integrating into that process, that pack ship process, is the right place to do it, as opposed to shuffling the paperwork back and forth from the front office, marking up a sheet and taking it back and typing it in. And it just streamlines that process. You're doing it where that information is created, and then so those EDI orders can often get processed in with other orders. So you don't have necessarily a dedicated area. You don't have a staging where you're keeping those boxes. You printed the labels up front. You got to come back and figure out which labels go in which boxes. That just becomes a huge headache without a sort of integrated shipping and sort of pack ASN solution.
In addition to all those other documents that we were mentioning, some of the retail trading partners will have the option to either print off their packet slip from their platform or using SBS's platform. But we can help streamline the process by having the packing slip printed downstream. So in addition to the shipping label and the UCC 128 label being printed off, we can also help with the production of the packing slip, automatically knowing which one to choose off of the data that's in QuickBooks.
Yeah, and again, if you're shipping with different customers, remembering this pack slip, that pack slip, whether it's EDI or not, if you're doing some drop shipping, if you're going to automate that with business rules, based on this order, it's a JCPenney, or maybe you even have a couple brands you sell yourself with different branded pack slips. That can be all automated with multiple templates within OzLINK.
And here's an example. We'll actually show you a demonstration of this in just a minute here. But this is how the EDI process will work for Omega C, and we were a strategic part of them gaining this particular business.
Yeah, so they'd been actually a long-time customer of ours using our basic QuickBooks shipping, and they started to develop a strong relationship with PetSmart, and it turned into, look, we now have, as they launched that relationship, there's an EDI requirement. And they had to very quickly be able to process, at the beginning of that relationship, kick it off, 800 orders just in a few days. So doing that in a manual process, it just wasn't feasible. They couldn't sustain that business. So being able to streamline and automate that process was fundamental to serving PetSmart, effectively with, both from an order flow efficiency standpoint, but also making sure there weren't errors that caused chargebacks, additional fees, impacting negatively their vendor scorecard. All of those became fundamental elements to sort of helping grow and expand that relationship.
So we're just going to go into the demonstration right now, so just give me a second here.
And as Jason's setting that up, again, what we're going to see here is a couple different sales channels that are generating orders. One will show you where customers set up an e-commerce site. In this case, we're using Magento. Those orders flowing in. Those are typically straight B2C orders, not involving a large retailer. Then we'll show you an order that came in through EDI, through SPS Commerce, and now it's in QuickBooks. How do you get that fulfilled? How do you generate the ASN, again, in a very efficient manner, minimizing errors, making sure you're meeting that vendor's needs? So a couple sales channels we're looking at here in this demo.
So as you see here, we have a Magento admin panel, and I have one order that I'd like to process. So we have a few different ways to start this process. One, it can be on a time interval basis so that we can look at the e-commerce cart every 5, 10, 20 minutes, every hour, every day at 3 o'clock. Whatever the case is, we can do that and grab those orders and bring it in to QuickBooks. Or we can go ahead and just hit insert orders. That's what I'm going to go ahead and do.
So at this point, the orders are now getting pulled from Magento into QuickBooks, so no one's retyping the orders. Similarly, the modules which we're not showing here, which Jason highlighted earlier, we can also be pushing inventory quantity out to Magento. So as these orders consume inventory, you want to update the inventory on the Magento storefront, so you're representing that effectively to your customer, consumer. And similarly, master item information like pricing, those things can also get pushed out from QuickBooks to Magento.
And as President Brennan was speaking, what you saw me do was I grabbed the order number and I just did a simple find because I just wanted to show you that it is in QuickBooks and go from here. Now, from this particular standpoint.
Yeah, one quick question. One point here is in this case it's showing up as an invoice. Typically that's for wholesale order, but that integration can create a receipt, a sales order, an invoice, really the right QuickBooks document based on your business and that particular sales channel. Wholesale might be invoice, e-commerce might be a sales receipt.
Yep. So if I'm the customer and I am already gone through my pick and pack process, I'm now ready and able to start shipping this particular product out, or these products out. So I'm going to enter in that order number into the OzLINK toolbar, and then I'm going to have this pack verification module show up. Now, typically, if you wanted to have more control over your inventory and what was leaving your warehouse, a pack verification module will definitely help you there because it'll be very useful in regards to knowing what was picked and packed into one particular box. But I'm going to show you this on the next demonstration, so I'm going to go ahead and just click Pack Remaining. It's going to go ahead and do so. Close that out and click Done. And without that pack verification module, what normally would happen here would be it would just automatically go into the shipping carrier software as you see UPS being pulled up here right now.
And the other advantage of leveraging the carrier software is the training in the warehouse. The warehouse folks are used to using that. The carriers provide a lot of support for leveraging that technology, so the training becomes really minimal to get someone effectively at the ship station. Now, as we process that shipment on in this case, WorldShip, it prints out the label, and then writes back the cost and the tracking number into that QuickBooks document, whether that's an invoice or a sales receipt. And then at the same time, in parallel, it writes it back to the Magento or whatever the e-commerce storefront is. And then now at that point, all of the systems are up to date with the latest order status, the tracking information. At this point, it's also possible we could be sending out an email, one of those branded emails. Typically, if it's an e-commerce order, those emails, something like Magento has the capabilities to send that out, and often that's the right place to send it.
And just give us a second here. UPS is updating.
So now, so that's the sort of e-commerce scenario. The other scenario is where a order has come in from a trading partner through EDI, SPS adapter puts it right into QuickBooks already, and we're picking up the process from that order in QuickBooks.
Go ahead and go to QuickBooks here, and I'm just going to start going through this particular document that we have here already ready for an EDI order. So in this particular case, this is where we would start off with EDI orders. If, let's say, an order was received from Walmart, all I would have to do is scan or type in the order number into the toolbar here and go ahead and hit enter, just like I did with Magento, and then the pack verification module will come up. Now, to explain this pack verification module, it really is if your items are barcoded, your warehouse personnel can go ahead and start scanning these particular items into a box or a series of boxes. So we're going to go ahead and start scanning 5001 in, and we have 2 of those. But where the pack verification module really shows its value is, let's say if they accidentally scanned additional 5001 in, but it only calls for 2. It's going to come up with an error saying that you've already packed this particular order, packed the quantity for this particular order, so please move on to the next parcel. So I'm going to go ahead and select the box that I want to put this in because I don't want to mix pack product for this particular retail trading partner. And we're going to close that box out, go into my next one here. And sorry about that.
So capturing, the item detail is important, certainly from a compliance standpoint in this case. So making sure that that information gets put in. And QuickBooks doesn't have a native capability to capture the contents of each box. So this is it's a perfect example of extending the native application to capture this extended business process.
Yep. So now I have 5002 in, but let's say I accidentally scanned something or miskey in the information and I put in 5005. 5005 is not part of the order, so it's going to come up say that's not part of the order, so you can't put that in. So I'm going to go ahead and close out box number 2. And then for box number 3, it's a case pack, so I don't necessarily need to open up a box to count what's in it. So I'll just go ahead and double click it and then close that particular box out. Now I'm done. So all I need to do now is click done, and it's going to pull up WorldShip. And as you see here, with WorldShip, it's going to say package 1 of 3 because I packed 3 different boxes, and I have a scale in the background that's capturing a weight. So if I'm done at this particular point, what I'll do is I'll click Process Shipment, and then what I'll be able to do from here is print off the label, the UCC 128, and have the information written back into QuickBooks.
And then one of the key things here is both the shipping label and the retail compliant label are both printed out here at the same time. So it's not going and sort of re-getting that from the portal in the front office and shuffling them back to the warehouse and applying those boxes, which UCC 128 label goes on which box. They're printed at the same time, applied at the same time, no staging, and they're ready to go for when UPS or FedEx come pick up that shipment.
And here's an example of the outbound label with the UCC 128.
So that brings the end of the demo scenario. As you saw, a couple sales channels, one an e-commerce and EDI channel. And as I mentioned earlier, we're seeing customers with more and more different sales channels driving different processes in the warehouse, whether that's like Groupon, which is driving a batch process, an EDI trading partner where you're doing that pack validation, scanning the items to make sure you capture the items in the box. More recently, we had a customer that they knew they had an assortment, and they had that every box was the same mix of product. So instead of doing that scan at the ship station, they did a batch process all up front and produced 100 UCC 128 labels with a little trailer at the bottom saying what goes in the box, and they use that as their pick ticket. They go through, apply the label and the shipping label and UCC all up front. So again, a very different approach based on what they could do in their process. So we do have a few questions here which we'll address, and I apologize we didn't get to them as we were going through the session. The first question is, what version of QuickBooks is required? And we run QuickBooks Online. So that's a great question. We basically, from a technology standpoint, there's QuickBooks Online, which is cloud solution. There's QuickBooks Desktop, which comes in Pro, Premier, and Enterprise. But from an integration and extension standpoint, for us, it's similar. It's basically the same sort of approach. And then there's QuickBooks POS, which again has a different technology. It's on-premise software, different technology. We do see customers taking QuickBooks Desktop and also hosting that in the cloud with partners like Right Networks. So the mix is there. The solutions you've seen today are primarily around desktop. We do shipping automation around QuickBooks Online, but being able to insert orders is something that we do with QuickBooks Desktop and POS. Here's another question that's come in. I have a couple of different websites and different brands. Can I create automatically pack slips for each of those brands at ship time?
Yeah, and the question, to answer the question, yes, you can. We can, looking at your file and knowing what store it was represented, we can definitely create or auto-create a packing slip on behalf of that particular brand.
So, thanks, Jason. And here's another question that came in. I'm looking to do some batch. What are the requirements that I need to think about to have to be able to process shipments in a batch versus individually at the ship station?
Sure. So there's a few different situations in which a batch can be applied. First is single line item. If you're shipping out one large item per shipment, then that's the easy way to really know if batch would work for you. Another way to know if batch will work for you is if you do have multi-line items, you know how each is being boxed together. So you have that logic up front, and there's programmable information to help automate that.
Excellent, thank you. Here's another question that's come in. We're using Channel Advisor and a non-Channel Advisor like Hayneedle. Can these be integrated? And so we do a lot of integration with Channel Advisor and different portals and e-commerce applications. And in this case, I'm not sure if the question is to integrate Hayneedle into Channel Advisor or integrate Channel Advisor and Hayneedle directly into QuickBooks sort of in parallel. But what I'd suggest is in these scenarios, you can give us a quick call. We can sort of say, hey, what's the right process and sort of order flow for your business, and then we can say, yep, this is something we can do, or here's an area we can do, and this is what we can't do. Okay. Some other good questions here. What's the typical deployment time? Again, very good question. This is built around sort of a tailored solution. So a lot does depend on the complexity of the implementation. If there's many different shopping carts or e-commerce applications and some more complex batch processing, it could be 10 to 12 weeks. Typically, it's shorter. Customers start with something smaller, 4 to 6 weeks from the time we agree, yeah, let's get going, to the time it's up and running. But that also assumes things like QuickBooks are all in place, the item data is all in place, the e-commerce application's up, and a fair bit of that's lead time based on our backlog. So we have a backlog of orders, so that is to get that scheduled in that sort of 4-week time frame. Okay, here's another question. Besides UPS, can we have a choice to choose from FedEx and USPS? Yeah, so the shipping solutions do support a broad set of carriers. UPS probably has the sort of deepest capabilities in terms of things like time in transit and leveraging quantum view data. But we do shipping with FedEx, we do shipping with USPS, we do shipping with local regional carriers like OnTrack, we support Canada Post, Purolator. So it's a broad set of carrier options that you can leverage. Freight is another one. We can create a bill of lading and do freight shipments is another option. Okay. Looks like that's the end of the questions. I appreciate everyone's time this afternoon. I realize people are busy, so I appreciate you taking the time. Hopefully you got one or two nuggets from this that can help you think about how to streamline your business and improve, do some cost savings or improve your productivity. If you do have any questions, you can, we have a number of sort of videos and case studies, resources that you can use to learn how you might leverage OzLINK or some process improvements in your warehouse. You can visit them with the UPS Ready site. We have a YouTube channel, which really is useful for different, we have a number of videos that show, like 2-minute videos that show different scenarios, and there's a QuickBooks channel on that YouTube that you can look at. So again, I appreciate it. We will be sending out the slides and the recording. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call. 508-366-1969, or you can send us an email at sales@ozdevelopment.com. Thank you very much.